I think that was it. Do you
That
have
was great.
any?
No, you did great.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, thanks, Megan, for that. All right. So anyway, moving forward together. So again, we acknowledge that we are, of course, on our original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji Cree, and Dene people in the homeland of the Red River Métis, and that we respect the treaties that have been made on these territories, and acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and in the spirit of reconciliation, we dedicate ourselves to moving forward in partnerships with Indigenous communities. So just to give you a bit of a highlight from the year gone by, again, some of this maybe is news, some of it might not be news. The part that's probably not news to anybody here, unfortunately, is that since the start of the pandemic, we've seen a 145% increase in food bank demand all across Manitoba. Sadly, that's not a unique to Manitoba story. We've seen much the same thing in food banks all across the country. I know Megan and I stay in touch with our colleagues in other parts of Canada. Oh, I'm supposed to stay by the podium. I can't wander around. Okay, Zoom folks, I'm told I can't wander around, so I'll try and keep it to a minimum. Our friends at food banks like Daily Bread in Toronto, they've in fact seen a 270% increase in demand for food banks in Toronto, and it's been much the same story in big cities and small towns, east, west, north, and south, and certainly here in Manitoba as well. We've seen that demand all over the place. Thankfully, we have an incredibly generous community, including many of you, people that give their funds, that give their time, that give their food to allow us to do our work. 43,000 hours of volunteer labor just here at Harvest. That's not including all the volunteer labor that happens at the various food banks and soup kitchens and all the other agencies across Manitoba. So the good news around that is we're pretty much back, and in some cases even a little bit ahead of where we were during the pandemic period, when the volunteer numbers, the volunteer hours were way down. That was creating a lot of challenges for us. So when you go on the tour, if you haven't been here for a while, you'll see some of our volunteer spaces have been spruced up, making it a more enjoyable experience for our volunteers. People like Marcia, making it a wonderful experience when people come through here, that it's safe, that it's a good time for groups, for young people, for all kinds of individuals that volunteer with us. So that's good news. Obviously, our community food network continues to grow as well. Now 360 plus members of that community food network all across the province of Manitoba. Food banks, soup kitchens, drop-in centers, daycares, schools, all manner of organization. And we'll talk about a few of the new ones that have joined us this year, and some special partnerships that we have developing or have been developed. Just to give you a bit of a sense of the demand, this is now, I guess, 2 months ago now, March of 2023, we hit an all-time record of almost 22,000 households went to a food bank somewhere in the province of Manitoba in the month of March alone. So just to put that into some kind of, by the way, that's about 47,000 individuals, 22,000 households, 47,000 people when we're talking about moms and dads and kids and everybody else. So just to put it in some context, I started at Harvest now September of 2021. And at that time, it was the first month that Harvest had provided support to 11,000 households. And that was a record then. So September of 2021, 11,000 households in 1 month, a new record at that time. And here we are, a year and a half, a bit later, and it's doubled. And again, I don't need to tell you that. I mean, you see it in your organizations. We see the need, and again, the volumes of food that we either collect through our grocery partners, through our food drives, through our agricultural partners, Manitoba Pork and the chicken producers, and Peak of the Market and the dairy farmers, other food processors, and of course, an increasing amount of food that we're purchasing. And if you think about the retail value of all that food, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars every year. So they're big numbers. So I am going to walk while I do this one. You know, sorry folks on Zoom, just because I want to point to a few things here. It's just kind of showing a little bit of kind of what's been happening over the last 2 years, let's say, here at Harvest, and I want to show you some of the trends that we're seeing because they're interesting trends and they speak to something. Oh, I'm glad we have you here speaking. Can you hear for speaking one more? I mean, that's innovation. So the chart that we've got here is showing this is new food bank clients. So first time food bank clients haven't been to a food bank before, or they haven't been to a food bank in many years, let's say. So here, April of 2021 is where we were. We were averaging about 200 new food bank clients a month in April, May, June 2021. The different colored lines here are just sort of giving a bit of a sense of where some of the pressure is coming from in the community. So the orange piece are new Canadians that are part of our new client base. And as you can see, it was pretty steady, somewhere between 20, 25, sometimes 30% of our new clients were new Canadians. And that's pretty consistent. The blue line is everybody else. So new Canadians in the orange, blue, everybody else. So we see it pretty, steady, but starting to increase. That November, December period of 2021, and we started to see the numbers go up. If you'll recall, those are some of those first months when we really started to see those inflation numbers start to push up 4%, 5%, 6%, and they started to go up. So the numbers keep going. The green line, by the way, is total households served, by the way. So it continues to go up like this, up and down. It dips a little bit in the summer, kind of seasonally. That tends to happen, as you all know. But what we started to see last summer, June, July, August, September, the numbers really started to go up, and particularly on the new Canadian side. So we started to go from averaging around 200 new clients a month to where were we at? 800 new clients a month by last fall. So what we started to do, because we figured that a big part of this story was probably displaced Ukrainians, because we were seeing a lot of displaced Ukrainians coming to Harvest, and we've been hearing that from other food banks as well. So starting in December, we started to break that out. The yellow bar now are displaced Ukrainians who are new food bank clients. The orange are all other new Canadians, non-displaced Ukrainians, and the blue, again, everybody else. So you'll see this goes to March. The April numbers, I don't have them finalized yet, but my understanding is that it's not that much dissimilar to March. We're seeing that in the month of March, it was 55% of new food bank clients here in the city of Winnipeg were displaced Ukrainians. So again, this is probably not news to any of you, but it does show a few things. One, that events in the world can really have a significant impact on the work here that we do at home and here in Winnipeg. And just as we were starting to perhaps see a little bit of a settling down last summer with inflation and some other pressures, we started to see this huge spike as many of your food banks started to serve an increasing number of displaced Ukrainians. And so I know that many of us, Deb and Wilson and I and Megan and others, have been having more dialogue with some settlement-based organizations here, the Ukrainian Federation of Manitoba and the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, MANZO, sitting at the table with the folks from Settlement Services who are part of the coordinating committee for displaced Ukrainian settlement services. So I'm interested to hear from you when we get into our Q&A a little bit about what some of the experiences that you might be seeing, because I know some communities have been more or less touched by this issue and how you're dealing with that. We're trying where we can to make sure that we're able to provide services where we can refer people to other settlement services, refer people to Ukrainian language services. We're bringing a number now of new Ukrainian folks into our warehouse training programs as well, so that they're able to get some Canadian work experience and get some knowledge of the English language. And We actually hired two of them around Christmas time, Victor and Vyacheslav, and Victor's already left us for another job out in the community, which is great. So we know that these folks are going to get along well here, and it's just a matter of making sure that we work together. So I show you those numbers just to talk about that issue of this surge that we've seen in Ukrainian settlement, but just the overall numbers. 2 years ago, averaging around 200 new food bank clients a month to March, where it was 1,200. So those are big differences, which are having an impact. And I know putting a stress on many of our partner organizations all over the province. So as part of that, we want to make sure that we're helping all of you to be able to adapt and to be able to increase your capacity, because as those numbers have increased, again, a year and a half ago, 11,000 households, now 22,000 households, new clients 200 to going to 1,200. We know that puts a lot of stress on your volunteers, that puts a lot of stress on your infrastructure, on your buildings, on your facilities to be able to deliver food banking. So many of you, of course, will recall that over the course of the pandemic, thanks to some money that was available from the Government of Canada, we were able to make grants totaling $500,000 out to our community food network that went to support various initiatives. We were happy to do that. We have now a second round of that funding, which we have put out to make available to the community food network. This is thanks to the support that we received around Christmas time from the province of Manitoba. And I know that there were many other food banks around Manitoba that were able to benefit from some grants for various activities at their food banks, and Harvest received money as well, which the vast majority of that's going to be used to purchase food, because that's what we need to do right now to make sure that we've got that food. And when you go through the warehouse, you'll see all the food that is now purchased to meet the demand. But we want to make sure that some of this gets out as well. So we've received to date, I believe, 44 grant applications from the Community Food Network to access this $500,000, and we're just in the process of evaluating those now, and we want to make sure that that money gets out to folks as soon as possible. And again, the idea, it's a little bit different than what we've done in the past, where we did a lot of small grants. This time, what we're probably going to see, instead of a lot of small grants, is perhaps fewer but larger grants that are really focused on the ability of food banks to either sustain their existing capacity, so making reinvestments in equipment and facilities, et cetera, or investments that are going to allow people to take additional clients at their food bank, because we need to do that now to meet the surge. We need to be able to welcome more numbers to our food bank. So we know that that takes resources, and so we want to be able to support that that process where we can. So stay tuned on that. In the next few weeks, we'll have, I think, some very exciting announcements about that, and I know that many of you will benefit from that. Okay. Some other highlights from the year gone by. I know when we were here last year, we talked quite a bit about returning to bulk delivery. And of course, at that time, I think most of us here were wearing masks and like things were different, right? As we all know, during COVID, Harvest needed to adapt to the situation. We were pre-packaging both the perishable boxes and we were pre-packaging the non-perishable hampers. We had a roadmap to move that back to bulk. That roadmap was complete as of this winter. And again, thanks to Megan and her team and others, Wilson, Deb. I mean, a lot of people were involved in that, Greg, to make that happen. And so again, when we do the Q&A, happy to sort of hear a little bit more about how people are feeling about that. It certainly creates a great deal of economy for Harvest to be able to do that. I think I'd mentioned to you last year that, just as one example, the boxes themselves to put the hampers in. Last year, we spent, I'm embarrassed to say, we spent over $300,000 on cardboard boxes. So, I mean, so that's just one example of an expense that now we can use that to buy food, do other things that are important for the food network. So we're happy to be able to do that, but we know there's always ways that we can improve. So we look forward to hearing from you on that as we do that. Implementation of new volunteer services software again, and bringing on people like Marcia as well to make sure that we can get those volunteer numbers up to what we need here at Harvest to sustain the demand. So that's gone very, very well. And I'm pleased to say that in many cases, if you call for a volunteer shift, Marcia, like you're not getting in for a month in some cases, because that's how robust we've been able to build back the volunteer network. So we're really happy about that. Under 6,000 volunteers right now. That's fantastic. So it's been very, very good. What I would say is that, you know, as we go forward in the year ahead, and I'll be talking a little bit more about sort of where we're going from here. We'd like to try and find ways to work with you to the extent that your agencies are looking for volunteers. If we have people that are looking to volunteer at Harvest, but for whatever reason, there's no room at the inn here, but they have potentially the ability to support as a volunteer another agency in the food network, we want to make sure that we create some mechanisms to do that, because we know that many of your local agencies struggle from time to time to find the volunteers that you need. So stay tuned on that. Yeah. So stay tuned for more. Stay tuned for more on that. New warehouse layout. Again, those of you going on the tour will see we've changed a lot of things in the warehouse. In my opinion, it's never looked better. It really has never looked better. It's a much more open space. It's fresh. We've implemented some new technology. We have some more technology to implement as we continue to move forward with a full enterprise resource planning software solution, a full inventory management system here that's going to allow us to manage deliveries better, manage inventory better, get the best pricing we can on the food that we need to purchase to get out to food banks and so on. And again, this is an area where I think Harvest has been a little bit behind where some of the larger food banks in Canada have been, but we're catching up, and we're catching up fast to make sure that we've got that technology in place. The return of Harvest training programs, our warehouse training in particular, Wilson's going to come tell you a little bit about that shortly, and as well the slow return of our Harvest Kitchen as well to some limited operations, again bringing back some activities that were lapsed from COVID, and again new investments in plant and equipment, trucks, other equipment. But again, as you'll see, we are bursting at the seams, and you'll go through our warehouse and people are, you know, people that haven't been to Harvest for a long time are shocked to see our warehouse shelves. Wow, that's a lot of inventory you've got on the warehouse shelves. The reality is we lease another one of these warehouses, the equivalent of this offsite, with inventory that we keep in cold storage at our partners at Congebec and Quick Transfer. And so there is a lot of food that's not even here, that's in our inventory, but it's offsite. So what you see here is only part of the reality of what's going on. Okay, Nutrition North. I'm really proud of this. When Harvest Manitoba changed its name from Winnipeg Harvest to Harvest Manitoba back in 2020, that name change was more than about a name and a logo. It was about a promise that we were making to the people that we serve. And a big part of that promise was that we were going to do all we can to serve every corner of this province with the same level of effort and passion and dedication that all of you have served your communities for the past 38 years, and certainly that we've been able to do in Winnipeg and in southern Manitoba. But the reality is a lot of northern communities, a lot of particularly remote First Nations communities were left out. And there were reasons for that. Of course, when it comes to remote First Nations communities, like these communities here in the Island Lake area, Garden Hill, Wasagamacc, St. Teresa Point, and Red Sucker Lake, we're talking about communities that are 600 kilometers or so north of Winnipeg. They're fly-in communities for the vast majority of the year. For a few short weeks of the year, you can access them by ice road. I had the chance with one of our staff, Leo here, to take an ice road trip from Winnipeg up to Garden Hill back in February. There's parts of it, if you've never done an ice road trip before, there's about an hour of it that's spectacular and breathtaking, and then another 13 hours of just going about 25 kilometers down a bumpy dirt track. So, but we got up there with food, and we've been, by working with our friends at Northern Affairs Canada and the Nutrition North program, we are now the first food bank in Canada, and I believe still at this time, still the only food bank in Canada accredited through Northern Affairs Canada Nutrition North program to deliver food and other goods to remote First Nations communities here in Manitoba. This is the same program that companies like the Northwest Company use to bring goods to the northern stores. So it's a freight subsidy based on weight and based on the type of goods. So now that we are able to use that, it's a game changer. It means that we can really now start to serve some of these remote First Nations communities with regularity and with high levels of volume. So these are the first communities that we're working with in the Island Lake area. Some of you may recall last year we signed a memorandum of understanding with our with Grand Chief Scott Harper in Anishinaabe Okinawan in the Island Lake Tribal Council area to begin to serve those communities, and we're now providing more or less monthly service. There's a couple of months where when the ice is breaking up where it's tough to do, but for the most part, monthly service, including air charters, 2 Dash 8-300s a month, going up full of food to serve those communities. So we're proud of that. We're also working with MKO out of Thompson, MKO being the Northern Chiefs Association. Since the Salvation Army closed down their operations in Thompson, MKO has picked up that banner and is working with the community there. And we've been proud to work with MKO to deliver a semi-trailer of food every month up to the Thompson Food Bank so they can serve the Thompson community. And the idea is, as we move forward, to expand the facilities in Thompson so that we can create with MKO a northern supply hub that now becomes an opportunity to send food out to other remote First Nations or drive-in First Nations across the north and make that more economical for folks and more efficient for folks. So, so that's exciting and something I'm really proud of and something that a lot of people here have been involved with. Am I going to play a video when I press this now? Okay, let's see what happens. The intention is that we're going to play a video. Should we? Oh, I need to press play? So I need to press play?
You have anything you want to say before?
How do I get this to go away?
We'll just move it down. Yeah, that's good.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a video. This is actually just hot off the press, like literally hot off the press. It's a video that's talking about the work that we're doing in the Island Lake communities. And actually, I think this edit of the video is an hour and a half old. Like there's a few things that may yet be subject to change, but we wanted you to see it here first because we're proud of this work, and I think you're going to be hearing a lot more about Harvest talking about this with our partners in the years ahead. So if I press this, it'll play. Okay. All right, here we go.
See if it sounds good.
There's 3 things that I would love to do in time. Food and eggs. So I'm from St. Peter Point, First Nations, Manitoba. St. Peter Point is 620 home.
What's happening?
I knew I'm aware that's associated, but they put me on trusted product. It's great. So I sell great food to the community that anyway.
We said we went north for some time, but it was kind of inconsistent. And because of the logistics of doing that, we started our relationship with Advice and started sharing with them.
It's the high prices of food and the fresh products and sometimes like video. This nice now condition of absolutely change. We receive the communities, area from those nations have been absolutely tremendous, and it's allowing us to take this work to new communities. So today we economists are coming to Garden Hill and giving food to people, and alongside of that, we also got another pallet from the neighboring communities. The Sucker, St. Peter Point, and Wasserman. to get interest. Well, this is good to recognize it's cheaper to get one of ours. This is really important for us. Seats this because this is really exciting. I know that's a group, and I will do it again. This time, they can bring other formats into the community, so these guys can have a lot of opportunities. Yeah, this is not I teach choreography to students, which has always been a dream of mine. This is the thing that I love doing, and that's the way it's in the case. Harvest has always been about so much more than just harvest. It's about and the strength and that will continue to be the future.
I think we're going to keep going as far as we can and as the communities.
To go back to these communities because without these communities for everyone.
I don't know how to change the slide, but I'll just say that I'm really proud of that, and the young fellow you see there, Lee Van Harper, still works here at Harvest. I met his dad actually, Walter Harper, when I was up in St. Teresa Point last summer, and we were in the community meeting with chief and council there and meeting with people in the community, and what Walter told me was that his son Lee Van had moved down to the city and was kind of looking for work. As you heard, Lee Van's passions for dance and choreography. He's actually in Toronto right now with his dance group. But he was looking for some employment in the city and had never had a job off the res. And so we brought him down here and interviewed him and hired him here, and he's been just a fantastic employee in our warehouse and someone that just brings joy to just about every day that he's here. And you can see his passion, right? And you can see there's so much hopefulness in these communities, and there's so much youth and so much energy that comes from youth, but it's at a pivotal point in the development of so many of these communities. Again, a place like St. Teresa Point, where there's around 4,000 people living in that community, just to put it in some perspective, the median age in the province of Manitoba today is around 38 or 39 years old. Median age in Manitoba, 38 or 39 years old. The median age in St. Teresa Point is 19. The youth and the energy that comes from Northern First Nations is incredible, but Manitoba, all of us are going to squander this if we don't make sure that people get food they need, make sure they don't have access to education and healthcare and employment and opportunities and infrastructure. So if Harvest, by working with Grand Chief Scott Harper and working with chiefs and council and working with the incredible volunteers in those communities, if we can't start to bring some of these important food bank programs there, it's gonna set some communities back. So we're happy to do that. And I was wishing Lee Van could be here today, but he's doing his choreography out of town, and that's a great thing. So anyway, I love that story, and you'll be seeing more about that in the months ahead as we look to bring more of that work to different communities. Okay, Meals to Go. So just a little bit of an update on Meals to Go. Again, another program that we love. For those that don't know, a program that started now about 7 years ago, provides snack bags to school kids on Friday afternoons, and we're now in 7 schools around Manitoba. Healthy snacks so that kids in low-income neighborhoods can get the snacks, eat the snacks. They have something healthy in their stomach, so when they come to school on Monday, we know they've had some fruit, some granola, some yogurt, some cheese, some milk. So important. So I note this because we are continuing, as donor funds allow, to expand this program. Really delighted that we've been able to bring on a new partnership with the Winnipeg Kinsmen to help support this program. And we've just expanded to our first school in the north, Joe A. Ross School in Opaskwayak Cree Nation is now on board with this school. And I'll just tell you one quick anecdote here. So we brought our first snack bags up there, and we do it a little bit differently in OCN just because of the distance. So instead of trucking the bags out there every week, we're sending stuff up there every month. So the bags that they're getting are bigger, but they're getting it once a month. So some of the bags, especially for the kindergarten and grade 1 kids, were a bit too big for them to carry home on their own. So they made a call out into the community to say that, parents and grandparents and caregivers and what have you to come down to the school and help the young kids to pick up their bags and take them home. And that call out to the community, what we heard from the principal and from the school was that there were parents and grandparents and caregivers that they have never seen set foot on the school property before that came that day to help their kids, their grandkids bring those snacks home. So the school was kind of joking with us that they're going to have to plan their parent-teacher interviews around the days when we bring in those meals to go kits, and you know what, if it'll help, we'll be more than happy to oblige. So that's a great program, and again, as we have donor funds, we want to continue to grow that, particularly into some other parts of the province where we haven't been able to get to yet, like Western Manitoba. So stay tuned for that. Okay, what's next? First steps. Just want to say a few things here. You may have seen in the last few months in mailboxes, we're raising money again for our First Steps program. So this is the program that raises money for baby formula, baby cereal, diapers, other baby supplies that we provide to moms with babies across Manitoba. Response to this is always very good. So we just to let you know that we are back doing that in case you see this. That's why, because we need to get more money into it so that we can make sure we continue to have formula. I'll note a couple of things. One, about the formula itself. There have been some issues over the past year or so with supply disruptions and empty shelves around formula. Thus far, we've been able to, at least at Harvest, avoid some of that. We've been told by Nestle actually just this week, that who's our supplier of this formula, that they're expecting maybe a 2-week or maybe more supply disruption of formula. We should have enough stockpile to get through, but just to kind of put it out there that if you see something happen, that's why, where we may need to drop from 2 cans to 1 can just to make sure that everybody gets something. We hope we won't have to do that, but stay tuned. We might, depending on how long this supply disruption takes place from Nestle. The other thing that I'll just let you know as well is we did have a story, it was in the news a few weeks ago about, because when these cans come from Harvest, they'll typically be pretty clearly marked on the can, Harvest Manitoba, not for resale. And we have seen some of these cans showing up at convenience stores and other places with the writing on it. And so I know that for a lot of moms and a lot of folks, like, times are tough. And if what's happening is some people are selling it for money, I'm not going to judge anybody for what they feel they need to do. But we have been telling retailers to be vigilant. And if retailers are buying this product from people that are returning it in and putting it on their shelves and reselling it when it clearly says Harvest Manitoba, not for resale, well, shame on them, because that's hurting the program, and that's hurting moms and babies across the province. So I ask you to keep your eyes open for this. So other than that, though, this is, of course, as you all know, just an incredible program that really supports a lot of people at a critical time in their life. So we're happy to be able to do that. Okay, warehouse training. Let me introduce Wilson Peinado, Senior Manager here, Senior Project Manager. Wilson's going to tell us all about the training program.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. We don't have a mic here. Yeah, probably you guys mentioned last year that the training program needs to be reinstituted or resumed here at Harvest. We managed to resume it last year, November, with the support of Maple Leaf Food, is the Foundation of Food Security. Now we are able to provide the program, 6-week program for people who are interested in getting to know about warehouse and find employment. So what we're doing this time is something a little bit different, because we need to make sure that the participants are able to find employment. So we need good attitude, commitment, because Harvest is doing we are the bridge with employers as well. So we have certain criteria for participants. And what we ask agencies like you guys is if you see in your community food bank users that are looking for employment, of course, but committed that they want to work in a warehouse, distribution center, food stores, or any type of store. You can contact our training associate. It's part of the presentation. You will receive it. Kutsai, we have a very strict screening process because what we want to do is make sure that these participants complete successfully the program by connecting with employers. So far we have good amount of participants. We have our measurement and we have compliant that 80% of the participants so far are getting employed. So, but it's because we have to be diligent in terms of screening and work with them. We provide a safe space for them in terms of some of the participants never been in a workplace before. We're working with youth. We're working with people that are new here in Canada and they have no idea about Canadian culture or workplace culture or diversity and all that. This is a place where we're providing that safe space. They can ask, they can interact with people here as well. And at the same time, they are volunteering their time here for the operation that we have. So yeah, that's the favor. If you see someone that you see that it could be a good candidate, just reach us, reach Kutsai or anyone in the agencies department or even Deb, if you have someone, and we reach out to them and we start working with them. So that's the idea. The whole program is 6 weeks. We have from health and safety orientation, preparing them for a workplace, like for a full-time job, right? So we go through warehouse activities. We teach them shipping and receiving activities, order filling, but also we add in this provincial certificates. They have access to WHMIS, they have access to safe food handling, and also they are getting all the pre-employment preparation for when they need to go to interviews. So all of this is, of course, part of the program, but they need to be committed to all of this, okay? So as I say, contact us if you have someone, but also I want to take advantage of this time because probably some of you are asking when my team in my food bank can access safe food handling. So now we are gonna provide safe food handling here in-house. We have the approval from Manitoba Health. So we have the trainer as well. So probably in June, through the agencies department, we're gonna send you the invitation and all the kind of the guideline how to access this program, but we can provide it here in-house, okay? Any question? Because I'm leaving soon. No? Okay, yes.
If somebody has a part-time job.
Yeah.
Mentally, and they still enroll in the 6-week program, they have to stop that job.
That's the thing. If they have part-time job, probably they won't be able to participate in the program because the program is a full-time. The program support them from safe food, safety boots, transportation. We provide some meals as well. Provide with a stipend depending on the size of their household. So it's kind of they are enrolled in this program, but we need them committed for the full-time here. Yeah, that's the thing. Yes.
You have partnered with other employment training programs that can offer a subsidy for them to gain experience in your warehouse to do warehouse work.
We are working currently with youth employment services, but not in the terms of the subsidy part. In the pre-employment preparation, they work with us on that regard. But the subsidy part is interesting. I think we need to chat about it. Yeah. Yes.
So education and training.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We can contact it, no problem.
The question is warehouse hours, because people who work at a warehouse traditional hours? Are you starting at 6 in the morning and working?
No, yeah, the program is 9 till 4. It is like full time, but within those hours,
You're
yeah.
not going to give them that joy.
Well, we need to clarify. We prepare them for employment out. We made the contact with employers and depends on the employer what time they want to hire them for. Yeah.
From what I understand.
Yeah.
warehouse work, it's early in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Because then they leave
Yeah.
by 2:30, anywhere else.
Yeah.
I've been involved with what I'm doing with the
Yes.
church. 2:30 is it, and the guys tell me they're very early in the morning.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people like early birds.
Exactly. No, that's the work that we do with Kutsai is with that connection with the employers say, I need someone with their own transportation. So we make sure that, well, probably they don't have their own transportation, but then if they need support with driver license, the program can support them to do the test and whatever they need. If they need support with IDs, with a social insurance number, with a driver abstract, whatever they need is part, and they need the financial support, we are here to support them. So the part is part of the program. And even we support them, the program is, yes, it's 6 weeks, but the program, the idea is support them for a year after they finish the program, because it's a kind of a long-term program. They finish here, but we are doing follow-ups after to make sure they are maintaining that employment. Yeah.
How many are there at a time in this program? How many people?
That's an interesting question. Initially, we say with 8, which is the number that we used before, it is enough. The thing is, we start with 8 and in the first cohort and 2 drop out. So for the next cohort, we're gonna pump it up to 10 and then 4 drop out for some reason.
Oftentimes, though, they drop out because they've already found other employment.
Yes.
So it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like in the third cohort, we pump it out to 15, no, to 12. And the very first day, 5 of them say, I found employment, which is good. But then that changes the whole planning of the whole program. So now we are in the current cohort, we invited 15 and 5 of them already found, 2 found employment and 2 others have family issues. So we are right now with 10 active participants. Yeah.
What you're saying is that you sign up for this program, it's a 6-week program, and all of a sudden you decide you have a job working in a warehouse with only 3 weeks. Is that, and I'm not going to use the word fair, but is that really beneficial to the person that signed up for this program? I mean, the understanding is to get full advantage of this program because it sounds like an excellent program.
Yeah.
Great training.
Yeah.
Because what you do, you end up, yes, go to the warehouse where they might have some different ideas, but the logistics of working in a warehouse are, these are it, and these are the
Yeah.
foundation. When you have these people come in and sign up, you say, you know what, this is a 6-week program. If you leave prematurely, this can be a detriment to possibly down the line because they're taking advantage of somebody that they, and I'm going to use the wording cheap. Some people look, if they can get cheap people, because working in a warehouse is very difficult, hard work. And if you're a good employee with good skills,
Yeah.
you can actually make very good money. But if you're only doing 3 weeks at a 6 weeks or whatever number, and if they're missing out on the benefits, so if you have them sign or say anything that listen for your benefit, it would be better if you.
Yeah.
were
Kind of.
kind of.
The whole idea of the program also is finding these participants that are looking for employment. They're actively looking for employment. Some of them, they start processes with different companies before, but they need something to improve their skills and all that. That's why when they start with us, they are still sending resumes somewhere because they are in the survival mode, that what we call it. Some of them, they found employment, which is good. At the end, the whole program is people getting employed, right? Some other, what we found out, especially with the participation, is we create the achievements based, the benefits based on the achievements. So the program internally has certain measurements because we need to report back to our funders. They say, for the participants, every 2 weeks, you're going to receive your stipend based on what you have accomplished during those 2 weeks. If you finish your program in week 3, that stop the stipend and the financial benefits at that point.
Now, I'm
Yes.
not going to take up a whole lot of time talking about this, but is it an accredited program? Are you going to make it an accredited program where it's going to be recognized by, say, some of the major distributing areas?
Mhm.
Because that's an incentive too, like if you just kind of leave after 3 weeks, you really don't, because
Yeah.
let's face it, if you're going to go into a trade and you have a journeyman or you have special requirements, that piece of paper means
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, when we start with the program, we start connecting with with employers that we know, employers that are already Harvest supporters, right? Different warehouses, different stores here in the city that are supporting Harvest in different capacity. We approach them and say, hey, we have this program. We would like to use your facilities or use your hiring process to get our participants. Yes, we would like to have our program accredited, but it's a long process to get there. For now, we want to provide opportunities to improve skills to these participants. At the end, these participants are food bank users. And if they get employment, their finances can improve and they have better access to food. Yeah. Well, it is a long process for us as training to get accredited and all that. That's why for now, it's just warehouse training, support with what we have. And yes, Vince mentioned, we have the other program as well in there, the hospitality program that is kitchen and food service. We're working on it as well. And once we establish it, we're going to announce it as we announce the warehouse program. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
One of our volunteers had a food handler certificate that is expiring, so can we come here with that?
Yeah.
For you?
Exactly. That's what I mentioned before. Probably in June, when we organize the schedules and everything, we're going to open this for agencies, for you guys. So yes, we have limited spots, but probably we're going to do it regularly. And it's just a matter of organizing ourselves, checking your team who is the priority to put it in the list. And then we start training all your teams. So that would be part of it. Yeah. Yes.
Will training be provided outside of the city?
Outside of the city, we can arrange something. We have the trainer is part of our staff. He is certified and he is approved by Manitoba Health. We can organize something to go out and visit different towns. Yeah, no problem. No promise, but we can. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Wilson. Let's hear it for Wilson. Wow. Thank you. A lot of great information there, and stay tuned. And there were some good ideas that came out of this today, including Aurel about part-time and so on. So again, we're getting this going after COVID. We're learning along the way, but the main thing is, helping folks get into employment, get into jobs, and improve their financial situation, and hopefully not need to use a food bank, which is a good thing. So okay, so that's training. Stay tuned. Harvest Voices Part 2. And Megan Urbis will tell you all about it.
And what a great segue. So for many of you, you may have read Harvest Voices. I certainly hope so. But for the past 2 years, we have produced a report, an annual report called Harvest Voices. It's a report that we actually start to survey around this time, and the staff in the Advocacy and Education Department may have come to your food bank to do some of that surveying. But really what it is an opportunity for us to be able to ask our community, our food bank recipients, why they're using a food bank, what's going on in their lives, and what's changed if they've stopped using a food bank. It allows us an opportunity to dig a little deeper, because when you call us to book an appointment, or they come to your food bank, if you're outside of Winnipeg, we don't ask a lot of questions. We know it's already hard to ask for help. And so we really just want to get you that help that you need right off the top. So this is the information that we received last year around this time. As you can see, some things have changed. 1 in 4 food bank clients now have jobs. I need to move this out of the way. 69% of our food banks clients are women, which is the same as the year prior, and 42% of our clients are Indigenous. This is just sort of the tip of the information that's in this report. I would encourage you to go to our website. But really, this is, again, as I mentioned, an opportunity for us to ask the community what's going on. And it's a report that's really the voices of the community. They're driving this report and saying what's going on in their lives for us to be able to utilize it to share with community, different sectors, to do fundraising, to raise awareness, to respectfully lobby government, to talk about the different income supports and such that affect the folks that use our services, and to say whether they're inadequate or what needs to change. So this year, and my team may come and talk about it, but this year we're doing it again. And hopefully forever. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going into the community again, doing surveys in person, over the phone, and there'll be an option online. And then we'll hopefully have some opportunities for folks to be able to, for you yourselves to be able to train and do it if you can on our behalf. Yeah, I think that's really it that I wanted to say about Harvest Voices. I won't open it up for questions yet, just because I think we'll want to do some at the end. But please, if you have any questions about Harvest Voices, just hold on to them. We can chat about it in a minute or two.
Here, I'll show you.
Show me.
Do this.
Oh, good. I'm up again.
Oh, you're up again. Okay, you're on a roll.
So our community garden, you may have, as you were walking in today, saw the new Harvest Manitoba garden in the front. We previously had a garden in the back, but due to COVID and having to sort of reevaluate where our volunteer workforce was going to be during COVID, it became kind of derelict, I guess is the word I'm looking. It wasn't something that we were able to upkeep. So we decided, I said challenge accepted. If you want to turn it into a parking lot, we're going to take the parking lot and turn it into a garden. And we did. So right now what we're doing, the team is, I actually have done nothing. Allison, Cole, and Megan, and Jen, who's behind the door over there on the Zoom right now, has helped us start to make this into something. And really what it's going to be is an educational space for folks to be able to sort of get an understanding of urban agriculture, how to grow stuff in your backyard, but also from a perspective of just wellness and, doing something with your hands or getting outside. One of the statistics that we received from Harvest Voices was that pretty much 90% of folks had zero money at the end of the month to do any recreational activities, and gardening was something that they were interested in. So speaking of gardening, Harvest Grower Row is something that's been a part of the fabric of Harvest since 1985. Thank you, 1987, so close. And so this is an opportunity for folks to be able to grow in their backyard a row for harvest. So, or if you have an abundance of crab apples, tomatoes, whatever you have, you can bring it to Harvest and we'll distribute it on your behalf. So it's really an opportunity for us to be able to share produce that you may not know what to do with. We have lots of different organizations that do that for us. So the Winnipeg Airport Authority has a really large scale garden, but it can just be your own backyard garden as well. Harvest Home Garden is something we started a couple of years ago. That was an opportunity for us to be able to repurpose the, the bins that you get from WAA, where you don't get them, but you put your shoes in them or your bags or laptops, little plastic bins, you put them down the thing. So we got donations of those. We repurposed them into growing boxes for balconies. And then we provide folks with the box, with the soil, with the seeds, and the seedlings, and a curriculum on how to grow. This is our third year doing that, and we'll be continuing on doing it as much as we can. So Allison, who is the new manager of advocacy and education, maybe give a wave. She's in the back. Hey. Sorry, Zoom, you can't see, but we will put a picture up. And so she'll be reaching out to certain food banks to find out if that's something they would be interested in, or maybe they already have. Jen Gare is also in charge of that program as well. Sorry about that, Jen, you're watching me. And then our Harvest Community Garden. So there's many faces that are here, Sergio for one, where we get a ton of seedlings every single year. So similar to us getting a bunch of food and us distributing that amongst our food bank network, we do the same with seedlings. So not at ideal time, generally closer to June, mid-June, we receive a ton of seedlings from different greenhouses across the province. And so we distribute those. So we help support community gardens out in community as well. We also have seeds, if you're interested in that. So if you want to have a garden at your food bank or at your community organization, we can support you that way as well. Jen Gare is the the education coordinator and the connect to that program. And then I just mentioned our new harvest garden. So probably mid-June, it should be in bloom, and it will be, hopefully a really pleasing place to look at and sit around for our community, but as well as for our staff and volunteers. This is so maybe I'll invite Deb and Greg, and I don't know, Allison, I'm sort of putting you on the spot if you want to talk to anybody, if you want to share any information, you don't have to. Just to sort of share some communications coming from the Client Services Agencies Department and Advocacy and Education. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I'd like to address the food banks in Winnipeg directly. I would like to address the food banks in Winnipeg directly just for a second. That's the part my team oversees. Thank you so much. Every time I ask anything extra of you guys, you just give it 110%. I really appreciate it. Now we're going to talk about some housekeeping. So calendars. Anybody here who hasn't gotten back to me yet regarding their calendar, you can stop by like after you're done here. It'll take 10 minutes and then it'll be done. The second thing I'd like to address, maybe Vince would like to say something as well. We oversee the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program at Harvest Manitoba. And it runs straight until the 29th of May. We do low income people's taxes for absolutely free. So this year, for the first year since 2013, we have managed to get over $1 million into the pockets of Manitobans. So we're very excited about. The other thing is, those of you guys who are rebooking food banks, reminder to get your client list back to me 3 working days after your food bank runs. That gives us lots of time to rebook your clients and fix any errors that there may be. So you don't have people coming to you at your food bank. They're not at on their list. They're all upset they were there the last time. Okay. Another thing, if the rebooking food banks can please let their clients know when their next appointment is. We're having many calls from clients saying they didn't know they were rebooked. That's why they didn't show up. And with our numbers right now being at 94% capacity, we want to make sure that every single spot is utilized for people who want to go to a food bank. Last thing, if you guys have any really cool stories from your clients, we would love to hear about it. Like anything you think is cool or interesting, or somebody who accessed your food bank for a long time and comes up to you and says, hey, Maxine, we don't need to use a food bank anymore. Things like that, please forward them to us. We'd like to share them. We'd like to hear all these wonderful, lovely stories. Thank you.
I'm Greg, I'm with the agency department. The other side of what we want to hear is when there are concerns. So if there's problems with your deliveries, with the quality of the food, any of that kind of stuff, please reach out to either Jamie or Kelly if you're rural. Let them know, send pictures of things that don't look right. We can't correct them if we don't know. Don't be afraid to let us know. We're happy to look into anything that you let us know. As it's been mentioned, calendars are going out for everybody. Make sure you get those back so that we can make sure you continue to get food. If we don't know when you're scheduled next, it's harder to put all those into our system. Otherwise.
I'll just maybe go for one more second about just Harvest Voices. So I will just sort of expand a little bit on the surveying. So we do start around this time. We plan to do it for a little bit longer this year. So starting mid-May and then going all the way to the end of August. We released the report in December, but what we'd really like to do is try and get a really good understanding of food bank use across our province. So if you're not located in Winnipeg, but are willing, even if you're located in Winnipeg, anyone, and are willing to do the surveying on our behalf, we can do some training, quick 30-minute Zoom. So not even in person, we could come and do it in person, but it would just help us get more surveys completed. Last year, we did upwards of 500. And we'd like to do more than that. And as well as get, as far remote as possible as well. So we are doing these anyways. It just makes it a little bit easier. And in terms of time, we can show you how to do it. And one of the things that we could also do is print them, send them to you. You provide them to somebody, depending on the way your food bank operates. Maybe they have time while they're waiting for their turn or whatnot. They can fill it out and you can just mail it back to us. And then we input the data ourselves. Anyways, you can ask questions if you want, but we're going to send out a detailed email and then the right people to contact will be on that email so you can let them know that you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for Megan. Okay, just one more. Oh, this is your slide as well, but just this one thing I'll say about this, just about the Harvest Voices and the surveys. Again, as Deb mentioned, I can't emphasize enough the importance and the power of the stories of our clients. Whether that's stories of why people need a food bank, or even sometimes more powerfully, why they no longer need a food bank. Those stories are important because they give people hope and they help Harvest to be able to raise money and bring in volunteers and do all the other things that will allow us to sustain our work and create stories for our direct mail fundraising and other work that we do. So it's important because people want to hear the stories and the stories stimulate the generosity. And if we don't have the funds, we can't do the other things that you all need. So that's super duper important. Okay, Megan, get back and say what you got to say.
Just one more thing. I don't want to, this slide could be complicated, but I'll try to make it not. So for those of you that receive regular communications, so I'm just going to play it the screen a little bit. Regular communications from Food Banks Canada. Food Banks Canada is our national entity. They're a group of folks that they work with the provincial food banks across Canada. They do our hunger count. So the hunger count is that snapshot of food bank use in Canada. We work very closely with them for a number of different initiatives. And what they are doing is they're launching national standards. And so the national standards are for them a opportunity to ensure that, we're operating at top notch. For folks that are working in the city as food banks, you by association are already complying with the national standards. If you're a rural food bank, you would need to comply with the national standards, but the national standards, although it sounds sort of like, I don't know if it sounds scary, but it sounds intense, are really standards that they work with small, medium, and large food banks. So one would be, one standard might be if you comply by having a board of directors. One would be that you comply by having a harassment policy. The good thing is that we have all these policies. We actually comply with everything and have already submitted our national standard confirmation. So if you need any of those documents, we can help you with them. We'll just provide you with the template. The only way or reason you would need this is if you wanted to apply for a grant through Food Banks Canada. This also, you have I think it's 3 years from now when they release them, or when they release them in June. I think that's when they actually, it actually is, comes into fruition. Thank you. Couldn't find the word. So you still have 3 years to be able to comply with these national standards. The good thing though, is that whenever they have a grant, we tend to have a grant too. So in the event that you're like, these national standards seem like a lot of work, I'm just going to use grants from Harvest. That's okay. But either way, we're here to help you. If you're outside of Winnipeg, comply with these standards. Even if you're in Winnipeg and you look through this document, I'll send a link when we send this out. We're happy to help. If you're like, we do want to find a way to comply with these national standards as well. We're in Winnipeg, why not? Let us know. We'll help you. We'll have all these templates, these documents for you to be able to utilize in your own staff. So if you wanted to have a harassment document or a complaints document, there's a few different things that we have that would be something that we can provide you with. So yeah, so we'll keep you posted as things move forward with that, but just wanted to let you know in the event that you've received some communications, just what it means and what it might mean for you. And that, yeah, we're here to support you. And if you have any questions, just let us know. I'll never get this right. Oh, it's you again. Here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Megan.
Where do you go back?
Okey doke. So I think we're just about getting close to wrapping up because I know we want to have some time for some Q&A and some conversation. So I'll just note this because we are moving into a process now at Harvest of strategic planning for the organization, something that we haven't had the chance to do for quite a while. And it's an important juncture for all the reasons that we've talked about today. Demand's never been higher. But at the same time, we're able to serve more communities than we've ever served before. We're working with more Indigenous communities and we're working under increased Indigenous leadership in many of those communities. We're taking more care and putting more emphasis on the role that organizations like Harvest play in environmental sustainability and a whole host of other issues that are happening within the food bank sector and in the overall environment. So it's an important time to do planning. Our board is going to be having a planning retreat early next month. After we go through that process, we're going to have some, I'll maybe characterize them as strategic pillars, some strategic directions that we'll want to start having conversations with our community food network about and with our clients about and other stakeholders, food producers and others that we work with. So we'll want to be having that dialogue with you. We'll be reaching out to many of you. We'll be creating that opportunity for those that are interested to be able to give some feedback and participate in that strategic planning consultation process. Because at the end of the day, we can have all the strategic directions we want over here, but if our community food network isn't with us, we're not going to be able to be successful. So we want to make sure that we have those conversations and that we're hearing your concerns and what's important to you and making sure that that finds its way into the plan as well. So I note that because in the coming months, you'll hear more about it. So stay tuned on the strategic plan. Well, that was the last slide. So there we go. Well, thank you. It can never be said enough. Thank you for all that you do in the communities that you serve to keep the community food network running, keep food banks running, and keep supporting so that we can make sure we build a healthier future for all, where no Manitoban goes hungry. So with that, I'll take any questions that there may be. Megan, you have a question? Okay. So just if people on the Zoom couldn't hear that, if you're on the Zoom and you have a question, you should put it in the chat and someone's gonna tell me if there's a question on the chat. Okay, great. Any questions, any comments? Yes.
And this is very concerning for me.
Yeah.
Our Church of Living Hope, has a number of Ukrainian families, the refugees. We started getting about 50% of our food bank are these folks. And one of the things that I found, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a number of these people who come from the Ukraine stay with family of relatives or people who take them in the same house. They can't afford to go and get an apartment, or it's just too strange for them. So they're all in the same house. Well, what I've been told is that if there's two families living in that house, the Harvest only provides for one address. And so what that does, it restricts the amount of food that household will get, even though there's two families, they're only really getting for one family.
Yeah.
You see what, you know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
So it's really irrelevant to what the situation was, but it turned out this new family was living with an established family, and I was told that they can only have for that particular household, that a particular household only gets a certain amount of food. You can't give to, you know, maybe I've misunderstood that, maybe it's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think that type of, that's really right. That type of thinking, I think is wrong.
Right.
I think it's wrong.
Mhm.
A family is a family, and unfortunately, they have no other choice but to live in that home with another family who is their sponsor.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. I mean, what I would say in general to any sort of question or concern like that is that if there's specific issues with clients or households that we need to deal with, please let Wilson, let Deb know, and we'll try and deal with it. I mean, the intention is to be fair with everybody. We do use the Manitoba Health Card as sort of the basis for the client registration. So it shouldn't be the case that if there's sort of different households from a family perspective, a health number perspective, living within a single municipal address, there should be the capability to provide two hampers there if they're two distinct households.
They're two distinct,
So-
two separate health cards.
Yeah.
One that's living in the basement, one.
Yeah.
that's-
So that, to me, that's like that would be like, otherwise it's more of an informal rental situation, for example. So again, we're happy to work with you on that. And if there's any specific issues to deal with, Deb is here and you can chat with Deb offline. But I mean, the influx of Ukrainian folks coming in has been a challenge as we've talked about, and we're trying to figure this out as we go, because both the volumes and some of the circumstances are a bit unique. So thank you for that. Good.
You're saying this for my clarification. You're saying that my house, I invited two Ukrainian families to come to this.
Good.
Exactly. They do, and I'm sure what's- Well, my biggest challenge, I was thinking initially that you were saying, I was able to buy my food for myself. And, so I accepted my food stuff. So the people, the Ukrainian family that came, refugees, were displaced, they should get help. Oh, yeah. I don't think you're saying there's two Ukrainian families.
They're both using the food bank. Yeah.
Okay. Marcia?
We have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you.
First. The issue is some people. So what we do is, if I have families of 1 or 2 people, they get the smaller cans. If I have families of 3, 4, 5, they get bigger cans. If I have families of 6 or more, they'll get that great big 2-kilogram bag of pasta, as opposed to families that will get the 500 grams of pasta. And that way, the families that are both living in the same place are getting more stuff than the individual person that is coming.
Exactly, and they all share.
Okay.
Yeah. But there are families that I also have the same problem, that are double dipping. The daughter comes on one time and the mother comes 2 weeks later. And so that's considered double dipping, and that's why when they're all at the same individual address, they're trying to make sure that it's like this. And so they're trying to avoid that double dipping.
And that's how I found out of it, because we do not have access to their address. We only have.
Right.
And it just happened because we know our Ukrainian families. We know all the people who come into our food bank by name. pretty
Yes.
much, Because they come on a regular basis. But this particular situation, and I knew it, same thing as what you're saying, I went, oh, wait a minute. You know,
Right.
and because we didn't have an address, I asked the address.
Yes.
And found out it was both the same address. I thought, oh, wait a minute, because we're handing out a lot of milk to this now.
Right.
You know, it's say 12 and under, depending on what milk is available. And I thought, okay, and I'm certainly more than willing, and I would never confuse anybody. But there are other people out there, please don't abuse it, because there are.
So I would say, well, thank you for that comment. And again, any specifics, certainly feel free to chat with Deb. And we want to make sure that, again, people need food, get food. Any other questions or, yes?
Are you, representation on the board?
Yes, there are. We have Barb McNish with us from Samaritan House. out in Brandon at the moment. We did have Aurel on the board for many years, but he's retired from his board service at this point, but still active at the at St. Anne. Yeah, we have one person who is representing a food bank outside of. We're certainly open to additional rural representation, and stay tuned on that as well. Yes.
From a Khyber food bank.
But you understand what I'm saying?
We have lots of questions, but we have more. The thing we want to express is a good story.
Good.
With the increased number of Ukrainian families that are coming to our food bank, they take pretty much 80% of the capacity right now. We've utilized them as our ambassadors for other Ukrainian families. We've actually got 4 families that come 2 in the morning and 2 in our evening distribution to be our interpreters and to help us communicate with the rest that have those language barriers. And I encourage other food banks if they can utilize it in that way to do so, because it's certainly been a bonus.
Oh, absolutely. We have one lady particularly think English, and she is our translator for the Ukrainian people who are like Brad. So, you know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you for that comment, and certainly that's great. Okay, so what's this? We got a comment on the.
On the Zoom. So one of the obstacles we face is increasing our capacity is delivery. You mentioned investment in trucks. Could you expand? And then wait, this is the second one, but maybe that will speak to that.
So the first question was about delivery capability. So as you know, we do have a fleet of trucks that's here. We continue to add to it with trucks like this guy here. We're going to be bringing on another 5-ton, but that may not increase our capacity so much because there's one that we need to retire. The part of the issue is the number of trucks. Part of the issue, of course, is also the shipping receiving capacity in the warehouse to load the trucks as well. It's also the manpower to be able to load the trucks and everything, and having enough food to put on the truck. So there's a lot of things that impact the capacity, not just the number of trucks. Obviously, a number of agencies also do their pickups from us, which we very much appreciate, and takes a load off of our fleet. I'll also note that in terms of the deliveries, again, we've doubled food bank use in the last year and a bit. So you think about a truck that would have, or a food bank order that would have gone out that used to be for 50 people and now is for 100 people. So that means that a truck that maybe would have carried 4 food bank orders can now only carry 2 food bank orders. So that backs up a lot of things that are going on. So just to the person that asked that question, we're always trying to increase our capacity. Trucks are part of it. Ultimately, the facilities capabilities are part of it. Our staffing is part of it, and just the amount of food is part of it. So the strategic planning process will help to identify some of those priorities. And we're certainly happy to hear from food banks about that. What was the second question, Megan?
The other one, I worked in a childcare program that received delivery from Harvest prior to COVID. Will this be resuming anytime soon?
So I can't speak to that particular childcare program. In general, though, there likely won't be a return to Harvest doing deliveries to some smaller agencies that have been doing their own pickups, for example. And part of that's just from an overall capability perspective, because if I'm loading 5-ton trucks, I've only got so many bays that I can use to load 5-ton trucks. So I could have 5-ton trucks, but I can only load 2 or 3 at a time, right? So that's where some of the bottlenecks actually are. So again, maybe we can find out, who that particular individual is in their organization and deal with their specific concerns. There's another question.
So the next question is, I'm trying to get my organization classified as a charitable organization. Does anybody have any advice for me or have any suggestions as to where I should take this? So I think we can help you. If you want to take that question offline and send myself or anybody in the agencies or client services department, you could do that. So Yeah, I can, if somebody, maybe Jen, because you're managing the chat, if you want to put my information in there, mervis@harvestmanitoba.ca, then I can follow up with you because I can help you with that process. And so can somebody, anybody else, pretty
Great.
much in this organization.
Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Language friends. We have these cards that we include with our members with pre-one on Manitoba and early start. Is there anything like that that we can provide these people with resource? Some of the marketing will be able to what is available for them.
Yeah, so what I would say in general, so I know that pretty much all food banks are seeing an influx of Ukrainian newcomers. If you have some good resources that you want to share with Harvest that we can disseminate out to the broader food network, we're happy to do that. If you're looking for resources, certainly leave your name with Megan or someone else, with Deb, and we're working with the Ukrainian Federation of Manitoba, Ukrainian Canadian Congress, MANZO, other organizations. They do have some Ukrainian language information about various programs and services that are available. So we can certainly provide you with the resources that we have. And the same would be true for any food bank or any agency that's looking for that kind of support. Okay, any other questions? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, so again, it depends a little bit on what the situation is. So for example, in terms of the way the distribution works out in Western Manitoba, say, we'll send some products to Samaritan House in Brandon that in turn is a distribution hub to Minnedosa, for example, or some smaller communities in around there, or we have similar situations with some communities that's around Portage la Prairie, for example. We have the relationship is between that individual food bank and Harvest, but they may utilize another food bank in their area as a hub for their pickup and distribution, and that whole issue of regionalization of some of those issues is something that we'll be looking at through the strategic plan as well, to be able to maximize our capacity and provide the best service we can. So it's a good question, and we'll come back to that with you. Okay. Yes.
I think the question / maybe food for thought.
Okay.
Piece of what we're experiencing, the things we touched on it with the formula piece, and it's a great program that we're getting formula in the hands of parents. We do find often, let's say we have 4 families with babies, half of them may not show up, and it hurts a little bit just to know that there's so many reasons why people can't make it out. And for us, we operate in the evening, maybe it's dinner time or put kids to bed and have your hands full. Like, are there solutions in the room that you guys have found, or other food banks, of just how we can better connect with those families in particular? Like, I almost wish I had a phone number there that I could call that person up, and with some capacity in the room, some volunteers drive that to them and drop it off if that's what they need. But we just don't know what they need a little bit. And I don't know, just kind of putting it out to.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And certainly if there's other thoughts in the room, happy to have some dialogue about that. I mean, one piece where, again, we're a little bit behind at Harvest in terms of technology is our client services registration software. And that's something we didn't talk about today, but we'll be talking about in the year ahead is moving to a next generation software solution that's going to be cloud-based, that will allow agencies to have a little bit more information access and so on. So that's an evolving process. It'll be a much more reliable and robust software solution. So as we do that, that'll create some more opportunities for agencies to potentially have some more engagement with their clients from that perspective. So stay tuned. We want to make that a better process, but we're running off a software solution in client services that's built in a Access 1998 database platform. So it's a little bit behind the times, ready for the Antiques Roadshow, Deb. So we're looking to move forward on that.